What's going on, guys? Ryan O'Toole back here again, giving you guys another classic movie review. If you guys are new here, feel free to click that subscribe button and that bell notification icon for more reviews, reactions, rankings, and more movie content. Today's review is going to be for a movie that many iconic critics has hailed as the greatest film ever made, or one of the greatest movies ever made, period, and that is Citizen Kane. This movie came out in 1941, and it was written, produced, and starred Orson Welles. There may be some spoilers in this review. I am full front warning you. If you've never seen Citizen Kane, what are you doing? This is one of the greatest films ever made, according to many people. Go watch this movie because I will be spoiling some things in it. I don't want to ruin the experience for you. Citizen Kane follows the story of a man named Charles Foster Kane, played by Orson Welles. He is a newspaper businessman, and it tells his whole life story about how these group of people are trying to get a story on Charles Foster Kane after his death. His dying words were "Rosebud." And it travels to the past of Charles Foster Kane's childhood, as well as his rise to becoming the governor, as well as a famous businessman, and the fall of such an icon. Now, people who have seen Citizen Kane, which is a large bunch, people who have seen this movie saying, oh, this is one of the top 5 greatest movies ever made. This is my favorite movie of all time. This is the most perfect film ever made, period. Now, hearing all of those high praises about a film like this, you have expectations going in. We live in the 2010s age with a bunch of superhero movies, and many people say this movie is the best film ever made, and other films in pop culture. But Citizen Kane was like one of the first films to be huge in pop culture. This was such an overlooked movie in the 1940s. Nobody really saw it back in the day. It lost Best Picture. But then, as time went on, it's been hailed as a classic. The biggest fact about the film is the star, Orson Welles. The fact that he was at a young age and he had all the rights, all of the freedom to make a masterpiece like this. And it's just mind-blowing, and a rare occasion that a lead star of the film is able to direct it, produce it, and write it. Is this movie a fantastic film? Absolutely. Everything, all the praise that you've been hearing from people, it's a fantastic movie. It is a really well done film. But would this be one of my favorite movies of all time yet? No. But could it bump up there? Sure, on multiple rewatches. I did love Citizen Kane. It is a really well done film. It's very good, and I highly recommend you guys to watch it. The biggest positive is the script, just the story of going back to the past and present with Charles Foster Kane. It shows many parts of his life, his death, and when he was a kid sledding, and when he grew up as a big businessman, as well as running for governor. You could also see the downfalls of this character. He had trouble and lifelong relationship problems with marriage. All the wives he had in this movie, the constant bickering he had, as well as all the money he's making. Like, he has this big mansion with tons of stuff in it. It's just a lot. How could someone live in a house like that? I just love the little scenes that don't seem important at first, but then they get important by the end of the movie. So the overall mystery of the movie is, what is Rosebud? The final death words that he says before he dies at the opening of the movie. You know, Rosebud. Drops the snow globe and it breaks. 50% of the movie is following this young reporter who is interviewing Charles, his former associates, throughout his life. He's trying to find out, what does Rosebud mean? What is it? And it's just great seeing these dialogue conversations with former associates of Kane's. If you grew up around this time period, around the 2000s, you're going to think this movie's really boring. But once you get older, once you start to understand this movie more, it gets interesting. The glory days at the start, but then the slow transition to absolute nightmare stuff. And he doesn't feel happy about his life. The way he's grown up with his love lives and not feeling truly happy about who he was, and just him taking his life at the end with his new love of life walking out on him, just losing his mind, just going crazy, breaking stuff. He feels like his life isn't what he wanted to be. He just feels depressed about it. And this movie definitely has one of the most mind-blowing twists in cinema history, that Rosebud is actually his sled that he played with when he was a kid. You know, that little scene where you see Charles as a young kid on his sled out in the backyard. The parents are talking about him moving to another adopted house. It's just that sled. He hits some guy with it. That's the only thing in his life that he feels happy with. And then you see a bunch of Charles's stuff in his mansion getting burned at the end, and then it shows the sled and it says Rosebud. That's what Rosebud was. It's just really mind-blowing. The more you think about it, the more clever, the more deep this film actually is. My only issue with this movie, it's not even an issue, it's definitely a perfect movie, is that some scenes weren't that interesting to me on first watch. I feel like once I rewatch this movie multiple times, that flaw will be immediately fixed. It's definitely a great movie, for sure. Just those small nuanced scenes with some other people that didn't really feel relevant to the story didn't hook me on first watch. Before I give you guys my final overall thoughts on Citizen Kane, if this is your first time checking out my channel and you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on Citizen Kane, and you enjoyed it, please smash that like button. It really helps with the algorithm, and consider clicking that subscribe button, because I do tons of classic reviews from time to time because of what's going on right now. I do rankings, Blu-ray videos, and the key word is I do this on a weekly basis. Overall thoughts, Citizen Kane, it's great. Just as everybody's been saying it is. It's definitely a flawlessly made film, well directed, well acted by Orson Welles. This movie's totally worth watching, so if you're doing nothing during this quarantine and you still haven't seen Citizen Kane, please watch it. Buy it on Blu-ray, buy it on demand, whatever. Just see this film. On my rating scale, Citizen Kane definitely gets an A+. There you have it, guys. That was my thoughts on Citizen Kane. Have you guys seen Citizen Kane? And what are your thoughts on the film? Do you love it? Do you think it's overrated? Or do you absolutely hate it? Let's talk about it down below in the comments. Thank you guys, as always, for watching this classic review. All my social media links are in the description below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Rosebud.